To a degree that existed until 1971, when the last remnants of the gold standard was removed. But in 1792, they had a Coinage Act written to restate this principle written in the Constitution. And one thing that they did, there were only a few federal laws that they considered necessary at the federal level, but one was counterfeiting. They actually said that the penalty of death should be invoked if anybody was caught counterfeiting the money. Can you imagine how insecure the Federal Reserve would be today if we enforced that? But you know, the monetary issue is key. I don't believe that we can solve all our problems by ignoring the money issue, but the money issue is going to be it as long as the people realize that the consequence of the increase in the supply of money are higher prices, financial bubbles, financial collapses, unemployment. This is all related to the Federal Reserve System. And yet today, a lot of people, don't quite realize that. But the important thing about the monetary system, it is a secret, sinister tax on us. And it goes to the poorest of us. The middle class and the poor suffer the most. So this is the reason the government officials have to claim there's no inflation. Inflation's at 2%. Don't worry about it. Because if they're caught in this, we have to change. But what happens is that if you believe in the warfare state and the military-industrial complex or the medical-industrial complex and the welfare system here at home, that you can spend endlessly, you can tax as much as you can borrow to the hilt, but you still come up short, so you end up printing the money, which means that it is the way they get to us through the back door. They don't even have to come with a gun and start collecting the revenues. They just dilute the value of the money that you're holding in your pocket. But somebody asked me the other day, said, well, what's the big deal? If prices go up and your salaries go up 3% every year and the economy's booming, what's the difference? It doesn't work that way. Some people's prices go up 10% or 15%, whether it's a medical care or educational costs, energy, or whatnot. And maybe somebody else benefits from that. Whoever gets the money first benefits. So it's very clear that there's a transfer of wealth from the middle class and the poor to the wealthy and to Wall Street, to the government, and all the special interests. So it is a tax on the American people, and it eventually wipes out the people if they don't stop it. And that is why I think as we get stronger in this campaign, you will see some vicious attacks on these principles because they don't want to break up their monopoly. But one thing...
Well, so he's is sort of anticipating what I was speaking to earlier, that, okay, the attacks are going to come, they're going to fight us, and he's anticipating that the fight is going to come around the theme of the monetary system, the Federal Reserve, and sound money. But I think that we have the facts on our side. We have unfolding history on our side, because it does appear that the U.S. dollar is just absolutely doomed to a major devaluation. It's unfolding right now. The dollar was up a fraction today, its first up day in weeks. But it does appear that the dollar has met the end of the road. It does appear that the ability for the Federal Reserve to maintain the value of the dollar it has come to an end, and that they're going to be forced to inflate even more, which is going to facilitate the collapse of the financial system. And this opens the door for people to ask questions about the financial system and about fiat money and about sound money and constitutional money. And who's got the answers? Dr. Ron Paul. He's the only one who knows how to speak to this, who has been speaking to this for many years.
One thing that we can be assured of is that the market is even more powerful than all the governments and then all the central bankers, and the market and truth will win out. You know, one other reason why the campaign has been able to rally a lot of people, a lot of Republicans, disgruntled Republicans, disenchanted Republicans, a lot of independents and a lot of Democrats and a lot of people who have never been involved in politics before. One of the attention getters has been our foreign policy. And I think this is healthy that the American people are rebelling against the system that we have. When you look at what we've had now for these many decades, for 100 years, we have followed the principle of Woodrow Wilson. Our pretense that we can, through force, make the world safe for democracy, which is nonsense, because all you do is get into trouble when you try to do that. The founders were very clear about the position of foreign intervention. They said, mind our own business, stay out of entangling alliance, don't get involved in the internal affairs of other nations, but trade with them and talk to them and be friends. Even those people who are imperfect. You know, maybe there's some imperfections in this country that we ought to deal with, and at least we should be talking to other people. You know, there's nothing wrong with spreading the goodness of America and the good principles and the ideas of freedom and liberty and sound money, but it has to be done by setting a good example where they would want to emulate us. The last thing they want to do is to emulate us when we come with bombs and missiles and all the threats and intimidations. We accomplish exactly the opposite. We weaken our national defense. And at the same time, in the various governments that we try to overthrow and undermine, what do? We unify everybody behind their bad dictators. That's exactly what we're doing with the Iranians right now. We are paying our CIA to go over there to try to overthrow their government, and those people who, like Americans, who are the dissidents who would like to overthrow their governments for their patriotic reasons, have to get together and do exactly the opposite. This whole idea of us being in the Middle East, and they say, well, we got to fight them over there. We don't have to fight them here. But the truth is, the longer we're over there, the longer we're occupying their territories, the greater the threat will be that they'll want to come here and do us harm, so that policy should change.
And all of this is so outside the box, thank God. And, you know, we've heard the foreign policy message, you know, over and over and over again. It is what the media tends to focus on. But it strikes me every time I hear it that, you know, listen to people, talk to people, negotiate, trade, you know, but stay out of their affairs, mind your own business, and, you know, don't go looking for trouble around the world. And, you know, it sounds basic, it sounds fundamental and obvious, yet it's just not something that we follow at all. And as he's pointing out, in this country, they've got the attitude, the Wilsonian attitude of make the world safe for democracy, and that everyone just absolutely has to be like us and have our form of government, or, you know, really literally form of government, because it's an external form. Internally, it's another thing underneath the hood, since we've discarded the Constitution. But in any case, they should have the form of government that we have, or at least the appearance of it. You know, this is something that we really need to make a fundamental change on, and only Dr. Paul is calling for that, and it strikes me every time I hear it.
You know, and if we have a change in policy, which is necessary, I talk more about the change in foreign policy in the Constitution than I talk about shifting troops here and there, because that is not the answer. If you just move them about, that doesn't change the nature of things. But if we change our policy and design it where we have a strong national defense instead of undermining our national defense, we, of course, would be very much more involved in protecting our own borders. That's what we would be doing. But since we're facing a bankruptcy, the one thing that we should be doing rather quickly is saving a lot of money.